explain this to EDP? Because I am dying to know, Michael. Treat me like I'm an idiot and I know nothing about it, and just explain it to me. And if you miss something, I'm going to call you out on it, Brian, and you have to witness this.
No pressure, no pressure. I don't know. I mean,
what in the world is TEDP, and why should I care? I'm a Telos holder, so should I vote for this, and why?
So they came up with this Telos Economic Development Plan, TEDP. And ultimately, I guess I kind of break it down into kind of 5 different portions of the 5?
I think there's 5. I jotted down 4 categories myself. I think it's 5. The chain, promotion.
Nah, I got it. So ultimately, I have 5 main channels that they're looking at distributing these funds through.
Okay.
So one is the worker proposal system, is increasing some of the funds towards the worker proposal system. Number 2 is probably the increase of some of the BP pay, trying to help offset some of the costs that are being incurred there. Number 3 is going to be the Telos Foundation is ultimately, you know, they're running a lot of campaign markets and stuff like that, so they also need some additional funding.
Yeah, because their funding currently is fixed and it's running out, so they don't have an ongoing fund. Okay.
Correct. There is also a little bit being carved off for, you know, some explicit marketing funds and campaigns and things like that for like exchange development and stuff to try to get on more exchanges, more liquidity, things like that.
That's a big deal.
So there's a little bit of a mechanism for that over there. And then icing on the cake's going to be a whole REX return type system, slightly different intention than the original REX on the EOS chain for resource lending. But same concept of stake your tokens, you know, utilize the voice that you have, and hey, make a little bit of return on what's available out there.
And so REX, real quick, is a smart contract that allows anyone on Telos to stake their tokens to this, which stands for Resource Exchange, and then they get a little piece, they get a little dividend off that, right? Basically,
ultimately, I mean, there's a market for, you know, people using the tokens.
And so that would be same as EOS.
Yeah, it gets funded by like RAM purchases and other sources. But then
Telos is suggesting they're going to put more tokens into that. It's like we're going to match even higher.
Correct. So they're going to increase some of the returns on that, and so that's kind of the 5th aspect of it, and all of that on a package, and reducing the annual inflation to 0.
Was that the 5th one? What was the 5th one? I have 4. REX was 4.
I don't think so. So worker proposal system.
Yes.
Telos Foundation.
Yep.
BP pay.
Yep.
Marketing.
Oh, okay. Well then, and so marketing is not the same as Telos Foundation.
That's correct. The
is that
marketing
the
and promotion. That is correct.
Oh, okay. So we're going to call that marketing.
Well, I mean, it's a separate
but that's the one you're saying maybe used to do market maker funds and all that stuff.
Things like that. The marketing.
See, that's our partner David Pence's biggest #1 concern about Telos, is that it's not as liquid as it needs to be.
Well, that's one of not his biggest concern. It's just the biggest detriment currently on the. I mean, the technology is great.
That's fair.
But it's hard to get money.
Like, yeah, if you want a couple $1,000 in Telos, you know, you rock the market. So
correct.
That's got to change, and we know that to only really change when you're listed on exchanges. And Telos is working on that.
Correct.
And that is part of this plan.
Correct.
Okay.
So ultimately, 5 pieces.
Okay, you got me. It's 5.
There you go.
And do you want to break them down one by one? Because I know they want to know.
Okay, well, so I'll just run through each one of the individual pieces. So
I want to start with increased worker proposals, because you said that was #1.
In my head, that's #1, because that's one of the coolest things about everything.
So what in the world, how does this help worker proposals?
So currently, I think the worker proposal system's getting somewhere around 420 some odd thousand Telos a month.
432K.
There you go. And ultimately, the TEDP is going to monthly bump that up to 1 million Telos a month. So be able to fund more of the worker proposals and continue funding some of the proposals that have already approved.
Hold up, because I hear you, man, but I think I think we have to really quick make sure people get that this means inflation is being shut down, and all of what we're about to talk about, all of this is going to come from that 140 million tokens.
Correct.
That is very important to understand, right? I mean, because that is that's a big differentiator.
That's the starting point of all of this. Is that, hey, by the way, we're going to cut off inflation, so no more new tokens for 5 to 10
zero
years,
inflation
whatever.
chain. My goodness.
On top of that, we've got this bag of funds that isn't being used and be able to fund some of these proposals. So ultimately, worker proposal system is going to get a boost of up to $1 million a month. And then looking at the BP pay, which personally as a BP, I can tell you that...
$1 million a month. For how long? All of this depends how long the funds are in the...
Ultimately until the funds are exhausted, but it's, it's pulling from a sad bag.
$1 million.
So,
wow. And that's for worker proposals. It's more than double what it is today.
Give or take, yeah.
And we have worker proposals flowing through.
So yeah, there's going to be a lot more worker proposal, a lot more funds in the worker proposal, which means a lot more, we need more developers. In other words, we can fund more developers. Can we push that point?
Well, the whole point of the worker proposal system is to create a whole bunch of cool features and stuff out there, and
for the chain.
Correct. For the chain, and ultimately pay some developers to eat while they're doing it. But the end game is to develop, the killer app and something to really bring end users across into the EOS chain. Because while we all live and die and breathe the EOS IO chains and all that, to most of the world out there, it's barely the fifth largest cryptocurrency on, whatever. So anyway, long story short, that's the end game for all of us is, yes, we do have to eat. Yes, we do have to, pay bills to run servers and do this, that, and the other. But it's the success of the chain, and it's the apps that are ultimately going to drive that, because you can sign a block with no transactions, or you can sign a block with Drago keep egg in it, or bet dice roll, whatever you want to call it.
All right, so worker proposals. I got you, man. That's cool, because that means ongoing development for the chain. 1 million tokens per month. As the price increases, the amount of money we have available to give out increases.
Correct.
That's pretty neato. All right, so next would be?
Next, I tend to kind of generalize as the BP infrastructure. So currently, the current inflation of 4.5% total, 1.5 goes to the worker proposal system, and ultimately 3% is going to the BPs to support the infrastructure and APIs and development and all of this stuff, all the hard work that we do. Trust me, it's hard.
And that's through inflation.
Correct. So that's the current inflation model, is the 3% that's going to the BPs, and in a couple of months it's gotten to 2% and 1%. And I mean, it's hard to even pay bills to do that, much less develop and bring it to the next level.
What does that equate to today, right? The BP pay?
As a standby BP, I can tell you that our daily claims are around 400 Telos a day, which is, I don't know, $20, give or take $20 a day.
So $600
$600 a month, give
roughly,
or take.
That's about right. That says 1,100.
I don't know, I see it in Telos because it's going into an account and sitting for a little while, but...
Right.
Anyway.
Of course.
That being said, it's hard, not everybody has the, opportunities that we do to try to keep our overhead down and be able to sit on some of the tokens for a while. But they got to pay the bills and pay hosting costs and, fund their efforts to further the chain. So the efforts being made to, hey, if we have this funds that's laying around, at least help in the meantime, increase some of the funds that the VPs are getting to be able to run the operation. So currently it's 3%, with a deflationary aspect, but the new proposal with dropping the inflation on the chain to 0 would ultimately increase the overall monthly pay to what would equate to about a 6% inflation, or 6% amount, but obviously there would be no inflation to go along with. It would just be coming from this exchange fund.
Pulling it from the exchange fund versus pulling it from inflation.
Correct. And so at least for the next, 5 years or per se, the BPs will be paid directly out of this fund at a higher rate to at least be able to cover and offset the chain. And hey, by the way, it's not having to create new tokens like all the other inflationary chains, at least for the short term. Right. As long as the fund goes, man, maybe 10 years, I don't know.
Right.
So anyway, that's kind of the beauty aspect of it, is that, hey, I can tell you, we did the math. I think Marlon posted a Medium article out there about the differences, or about the cost of just operating a BP, you know, a day-to-day operation. There's a lot of labor that goes into it, but just even the hosting cost of running test nets, stage nets, BPs, front-end nodes, back-end nodes, you know, I mean.
So the increase in BP pay would, one, come from the Telos, from the unclaimed tokens, right, the 140 million.
All BP pay would come from the unclaimed tokens.
All
so
BP
not
pay.
Just, hey, by the way, we're trying to, you know, make it a little easier.
It would effectively increase the BP pay.
Correct.
About double what it is today. Is correct. You know, a top 21 BP is making it a little over $1,000 a month now. They would be making a little over $2,000 a month. You're still talking about $24,000 a year.
Correct.
It's not even enough to pay a salary, much less a salary plus all that equipment and.
Oh, I was about to say, just the operational OpEx expense of it pretty much racks that up.
It's not a deal breaker for the BPs. The BPs, I think, have all got other jobs right now anyway. They're having to support themselves in other ways.
Some way or another, there's food getting put on the table.
And many of them are BPs on other chains, like EOS and like BOS.
Well, I mean, everybody tries to do their part where they can.
And we try to stay a little bit chain agnostic from that standpoint.
Yep, I'm more, if any of my projects, you know, tend to cross over to other chains, that's what brings us out to the other chains, as opposed to just, if it moves, I'll run it. Although that is kind of what I'm known for.
Okay, so the BP pay effectively gets doubled, and the pay comes from the unclaimed tokens. Number 3.
Yep, so then you kind of, I guess we'll bounce over to the Telos Foundation, is that they're, you know, great group of folks, and got the board that's, you know, constantly kind of, not constantly, but recently was rotated. And
currently all volunteers.
Correct, and open for, you know,
elections.
Elections, there you go, is that, and even, you know, potentially looking at bringing more of that on chain and tokenize, you know, that aspect of it. So anyway, but for the Telos Foundation, you know, I mean, it takes money to get some of these initiatives and to talk to the exchanges and to pay some of the fees and stuff along that line. So they've had a fund that from the initial snapshot kind of has helped get that going, but ultimately after all the efforts, you know, and that fund is starting to dwindle down. So what this does is this kind of establishes out of the unclaimed tokens a funding mechanism of about $1 million Telos a month to continue all these operations and new marketing campaigns and conferences and you know, getting the word out about everything. So really kind of giving Telos a face, another face from at least the foundation aspect, you know, from a board mentality. So anyway, really kind of, you know, that's worked out well for us so far, you know, the arbitrations and things along those lines. So keep that going. So that's being funded, again, reducing the inflation overall on the chain, and hey, being able to increase funding that had no funding ongoing from before. Some of the funds that were utilized with the Telos Foundation were spent on, you know, marketing campaigns with the exchanges, or, you know, trying to you know, establish what it takes to not, you can't just go and pay.
Right. And then I think they realized it was very expensive.
Well, I mean, everybody wants their cut, but ultimately they also have their requirements, and, you know, you have to do this before you can do that, and this, that, and the other. So long story short, there's a lot of logistics and things along that. So that's been handled a lot by the Telos Foundation and the board members, but the funds that they have to use to move things around and to work with and things like that have been coming out of Telos Foundation, which limits it from being able to do anything else. So the fourth kind of spoke of the TEDP is carving out about 500,000 tokens to be able to fund that mechanism, 500,000 a month, to be able to fund that mechanism for market making, you know, liquidity, and just trying to establish and getting the voice out on it, just purely from not having to suck out of the foundation's fund to get all the rest of the other stuff
give it its
done.
own. Right.
Correct.
I agree with that. I agree with that. All right, so that was number 4.
Correct. And the fifth one's probably the most important one that people on the video really will long-term care about is, hey, if we're going to help, offset the bills of the BP, and hey, we're going to help fund some of the developers that are bringing the God's gift to blockchain. Hey, by the way, if you come and invest your stake your tokens and use your tokens in a REX mechanism, we're going to fund not only the normal mechanisms of fees on the chains and things along that line. By reducing inflation, doesn't have to fund any of that. We also are going to be able to increase the rewards on the REX mechanism. So we invite all the investors to come and get your tokens, either claim your Genesis account or whatever, or grab some off of the exchanges out there. But ultimately, you'll be able to come over, which pulled a lot of people off of the EOS exchanges and onto the chain, just to be able to earn their what?
Yeah.
1% APR, 0.1% APR. Yeah. And also be able to get engaged and understand, hey, by the way, I can use these tokens to be able to vote. Hey, by the way, this worker proposal system that's going out there, whatever.
That's right.
So that's kind of the plan of it.
Well, and that's the other advantage to that is that we obviously are getting ready to release some of these 140 million tokens into the community, and REX, the incentives that we're now putting into REX is hopefully going to direct those tokens that are hitting the community and put them right back into the system and staked, pulling them back out of circulating supply. That would be the goal. So it's sort of like they kind of need to be done simultaneously. You don't want to pump a bunch of tokens into the market unless you have an idea about how you're going to get them swallowed up. Well, what else is with the TEDP we need to discuss? When's it go up for vote? It was waiting on Squirrel.
Yeah, so ultimately I think the last requirement that Douglas was looking for was to really trying to streamline it into the Squirrel wallet application to be able to approve it and vote, review it, approve it, vote how you want to on it. So I think the Marlin, I appreciate, good job on the Squirrel update. For sure. I think you got that out there, and you can see everything on one same screen. Everything's
I saw
great.
The proposals, was able to click into them.
Now that that's out there, I would expect something soon to probably come and be out there for everybody to voice their vote on.
That's right. That's right. We need everybody to roll out and vote for the proposal. We'll have to.
Correct.
When it comes out, we might have to do an announcement.
Hey, while you're at it, you might want to also vote for some of your favorite block producers.
Bingo! What's our vote? Telos USA. Correct?
Yeah.
Oh, it is?
Yeah. See? Okay.
Killing me.
Sorry.